You just heard Hammerhead from the Doomsday for the Deceiver record from Flotsam Jetsam. This is the Thrash Extravaganza Patreon bonus episode number 1. Flotsam Jetsam, Doomsday for the Deceiver, and No Place for Disgrace. And we don't have any disgrace here on the Requiem Metal Podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jason. That was funny. That was funny to watch. That was a war of words right there that Mark was in. And that's
We're not
fine.
talking about Halford.
Yeah. Yeah. That's because oh my god. Hey, welcome Patreon fans. That was a fight reference. I love that record, by the way.
Have you not to completely go off the rails, but have you read that biography yet?
No.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen it advertised.
It's way more than I ever expected to hear, because usually they're a pretty tight band as far as like personality shit and personal lives. It's all out in the open. It's great.
Really? What were a couple of revelations to spoil it for our Patreons?
Well, just like how open he was about his gayness was very refreshing, because it was not ever talked about. And all of like the references that we assumed, like talking about what certain songs are about.
They were.
But also that he had like a fairly healthy, like happy life.
Yeah, he was in like a really.
He still is in a long-term relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
So, but just hearing it, because I read KK's thing as well, which there's not that much differing issues with all that stuff as far as like, you know, what people said happened and all that. But
yeah,
Rob's is just very like, he seems to be very happy with where he's at, and it's
That's
definitely
cool.
It's a good read. As far as that and the I Know Me are two of my favorites that have come out in the last 10 years or so.
You people who have time to read books.
I don't read them. It's all
listen.
audiobooks.
I know. I need to do that. I need to stop listening to so many podcasts.
I was doing a mural
audiobooks.
in Troy,
Uh-huh.
and then I listened to that the whole time. It's 12 hours or something.
Nice.
Of Rob. He narrates it as well.
Does he really?
It's wonderful.
So nothing. What was the most surprising thing then? Was there like a big like an aha, like, man, I never knew that or never would have thought that?
Not as much. It was more just like, I kind of thought that. But like, it was just nice for the openness of everything.
How much does he talk about fight?
Fair amount.
Good.
Voyeur and all that stuff. It goes through the whole career.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Does he have fond memories of a fight, or did he feel he was pulled into like directions that were more trendy than what he actually wanted to do?
No, he wanted to do. He was really interested in that, in electronic music and Ministry and Nine Inch Nails and all that shit, and actually tried to get Trent Reznor to do the record, like produce the record.
No
something
shit.
For him. So
The first one or the second one? You got to be
the
talking
first,
about
the 2 record.
because there's Fight War Words, which
It wasn't
is like
fight. It was
the
2.
second man. 2.
Yeah,
or
they
whatever.
just did one song. Or I always thought they were Voyeur was the band.
Is that the name of the album?
That's the name of the album.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never heard that record.
I got it from I got a promo of it back in the day, and I was not very. That was a stupid time when you thought you could either be a Maiden or a Priest fan, and I was a Maiden fan.
That is true.
So a lot of my life is ruined. But you know,
We've often talked about a lot of our regrets with some of those classic bands.
But I have a Priest tattoo and not a Maiden tattoo. So
really?
I have no Eddie tattoos yet.
I've thought about getting another tattoo to balance myself out, and the one that like combines a lot of like me and my interests, but it's awful big. I think it would be big, and so I'd need to figure out where to put it, like on my back maybe, or I don't know.
Ouch.
But the Power Slave.
It's a good one.
Because of being a history teacher, being a world traveler, being a metalhead, it's sort of like a Venn diagram for all that.
Talking the whole cover.
Some aspect of the cover. For it to be effective, there's got to be a good chunk of the cover in there, I feel like. But I don't know. I'd have to really think about it, because that's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I was just going to do a Peace of Mind head. That's
which
my
I could do
favorite
that. I could just do that and simplify my whole life. But again, I
could do a Pharaoh Eddie.
Yeah, I could do Pharaoh Eddie. Would Pharaoh Eddie alone look cool, or would it look?
I think so. That's one of the few reaction figures I bought from the Iron Maiden line.
Got it. You see my, I've got King Diamond and
I do have King Diamond, then I stopped. But the Slayer thing is great.
You have the Slayer goat from Evil Has No Boundaries and Show
It's
No
one
Mercy.
of the most ridiculous covers that I love. I've got a tattoo of that.
That I kind of want. Yeah. I mean, I already have one Slayer tattoo, so I haven't gotten that one, but that would be pretty killer.
You do one of every record.
Oh yeah, that's like, man, the Seasons had.
Just do a Slayer sleeve.
Yeah, just all Slayer.
Yeah,
Sam would dig that. He's our
tattoo
guy. So we are in the midst, obviously, as our patrons I'm sure know, of this Thrash Extravaganza series, and so we wanted to give you guys some special stuff for being supporters of us, and this gave us an opportunity to delve into some other records and some other bands that are exclusive for you guys. And so Flotsam and Jetsam was one that when I put up a Patreon survey on the Patreon page, it got a handful of votes. And so I thought, well, we'll save this one for you guys. Extra special. Because we love you guys. Yeah. And what's kind of fun about this is maybe so far in this thrash series, this was the band that I've had the most surprise with.
I would agree with you.
Thus far.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our issues with Flotsam and Jetsam pre this episode, like pre putting all this together. Because I have some. Start? I'll be really honest about it.
Yeah.
What are some of yours? Kind of going back.
Well, I thought the name was stupid. The only reason I knew anything about them was because of Jason.
Yep.
Jason Newsted. So, and like that was really my first Injustice is like my first buying the Metallica record when it came out kind of thing. So I went back and I think I don't remember where I heard a little bit of it. It must have been on some kind of like compilation tape. I wasn't very impressed.
Did you ever hear this era or was it later?
No,
stuff?
This was later stuff.
I heard Flotsam, I think, on maybe a Concrete Corner, but for sure on like a Metal Blade sampler from like 94, 95.
Yeah, that's the stuff where I didn't give
and
a
like
shit.
Galactic Cowboys were on there, the first 6 Feet Under, Crisis. Like I remember it was like called like 17 Commandments. And it was like 17 songs.
It's too many songs.
And I like Flotsam and Jetsam in 1994, 1995 didn't do much for me because I had no past with them.
Yeah.
You know, like there was no legacy for him. I knew who Newsted was from Metallica, and I just was like, oh, that's the guy. That's his old band.
Yeah.
They can't be any good because they lost the like one good guy.
But they just didn't. They seemed out of time or out of play. Like they just seemed like old and tired.
Yeah.
At that point.
And I have a real bitter memory. I can sometimes be very caustic when I get fired up in the right situations. And I'm not sure how close Mark was sitting to me when we were at one of the last Milwaukee Metal Fest. I believe it was Milwaukee Metal Fest. I don't think it was Was it Jersey Fest?
It was Jersey Fest.
It was Jersey Fest.
With Cathedral?
Cathedral and Electric. Oh, yeah, because we interviewed both the bands.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had seen Electric Wizard like a week prior with Warhorse down in the shelter at,
it was off the Dope Throne tour.
Yeah, it was the Dope Throne record. And I forget what that Warhorse record's called. Something like Last.
It's the only one. So.
Yeah, it's a cool record. But
they just toured again off it.
Did they really?
They reissued it. And I think they might be doing something different. Coughlin's telling me about it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've not heard their record since. Those guys are super nice, though.
They're super cool. That was a fun record. I mean, it's a tough listen sometimes. You got to be right in the right mood or whatever.
Sure.
But anyways, we had seen them, and we were super pumped. I don't know if I had seen Cathedral at that point. I may have.
I think
you
once.
had, but
they toured with Fight.
Oh no, shit. Okay,
yeah,
so
that's when Carlson was on
circle.
bass, and
got it. Yeah, I definitely didn't see him then.
They played at Harpo's.
Oh, all right. But that'd be what, 94, 95, 94.
94, 95.
Because Scott was in them around Carnival Bazaar time, right? Right after Ethereal is when Scott was playing bass with them.
He was on Ethereal Mirror. Or he was on the touring cycle.
He didn't record with them.
Touring cycle for Ethereal, but this was for...
So that'd be 94 then. Because that first Fight was like 93, 94.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was a freshman in high school. There's no way I would have even been able to go to that. But we were out at Jersey Festival, and I'd be curious if any of the patrons were also at this festival, because it was very clear that Jack Cossack has issues. I've never really liked the guy.
He's a shucks or
he
what the fuck's that?
Shyster. Yeah, he's
just about money. He's not about
he couldn't give a shit about the bands or anything. No. And what was happening is the noise ordinance was rapidly approaching, and
for Asbury Park, New Jersey, that was a fucking hellhole.
Yeah.
Why was that even a thing?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't make any sense, and so Wizard and Cathedral were slated to play, and the bands were taking full sets leading up to that because they were the pay-to-play bands, I believe. So Cossack didn't want to cut them because he was getting their money.
He'd have to refund them.
He'd have to refund them. But the bands that he was paying to be there, he could give a shit if they went on stage regardless. They were getting paid regardless.
Yeah.
And Flotsam Jetsam was one of the bands that kept playing and kept like a 40-minute set. And as the set continued, I knew that
it was all running late, too.
That Wizard was going to get bumped or Cathedral was going to get bumped. And both got bumped. And
Cathedral played about 3 songs.
I think, and then no Wizard.
Yeah.
And
which was, I guess, good for us because we just saw him. But.
So I internalized hatred to Flotsam. I blame them for that.
Yeah.
So knowing full well that it was irrational hatred. It was not their fault.
Sure.
It was, but like
most hatreds are irrational.
I was just like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but this was like as unfounded as like Jack Cossack's the one I said some words to him as we were walking out. I don't know if you remember that. Like I actually like
I was so drunk you most of that.
I definitely like said some tense words and he stared me down. I was like, yeah, real fucking nice type thing or whatever. Yeah. Like, thanks a lot, you money grubbing asshole.
It's probably nothing new to him.
Exactly. You know. But he probably is a guy that like carries a knife because he's probably been people want to kill him all the time because he's a prick. So he probably knows how to kill people back. So
he's just a little turd.
Yeah, he's just a little fat piece of shit. But anyways, I was so angry that I blamed that on Flotsam and Jetsam for years. And so it took me a while to kind of get past that. But I know in like kind of various explorations that this first debut, Doomsday for the Deceiver, was always getting name dropped. It was in the Decibel, top 40 thrash records. And I read the reviews about it. And it was one of those records I just eventually kind of like picked up. I ordered it, some reissue that was kind of put out, that Metal Blade was kind of reissuing a lot of these things. And I mean, I don't know, the cover has some things going on for it that there's a lot of complaints about the cover, but you offered some perspective on it. And
it doesn't bother me at all. It seems like something somebody would have painted in high school. And
it kind of reminds me of like an old like Omen cover or like Tank cover, or
I think Omen was even worse.
Some of those kind of covers.
Omen looked like one of those, when you get those huge things of markers when you're a kid? That's what that Omen cover looks like. They had like 50 different colors that they would just,
The Omen record's a great record too, but so, anyways, I decided to pick this up, and I think I listened to it a couple times, but I didn't really listen to it. And I didn't hate it. I was like, oh, this is better than I kind of thought.
Yeah.
And I knew that Newstead was on this record. I didn't realize that he had written a lot of songs that were actually used on No Place for Disgrace as well, until I started kind of poking around and kind of doing some research and stuff.
I think he's the primary songwriter on those first 2 records.
He was, yeah. And you can kind of tell it's like it's written in the way, it's written as a thrash record, the way Steve Harris writes an Iron Maiden record.
Yeah.
As a bass player, being kind of like the way that they think rhythmically in terms of arrangements and things like that. To me, there's a lot of crossover with what you hear on this Doomsday for the Deceiver and what you hear on like a lot of the first wave of Iron Maiden records.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of the things that sort of jumped out to me the most, is how bathed, and I knew that thrash obviously was heavily influenced by Nawabum, but like this is maybe one of the most Nawabum-y records that I've heard out of the thrash genre.
I think that it's kind of a stretch to even call this thrash.
It's tough.
I think this is much more Nawabum, much more traditional heavy metal than it is thrash.
Speed metal. It's got a lot of German speed metal, like early Blind Guardian, early Halloween. It's got some of those aspects. There's a lot of Queensryche on this record too. A lot of Metal Church.
You wouldn't Queensryche. None of those bands you'd call thrash.
Metal Church kind of gets like tagged with it a little because they kind of flirt with that, but Queensryche definitely not.
Yeah.
Queensryche is like
even Iron like Maiden. Blind Guardian is. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
that's like its own unique thing.
Yeah.
Is where you're taking Nawabum and the speed of thrash, but not anything else.
Yeah.
It's kind of where those fall. So it's weird that this is even thrown in outside of, if it was not the same time period, I think this would just be considered a heavy metal record.
It's kind of like, I think sometimes Armored Saint got like dragged into thrash sometimes.
They're
and
not
they
definitely weren't
either. Yeah. They definitely weren't.
Yeah.
They're coming out of more traditional metal and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think there's moments like what we heard in Hammerhead, it's pretty driving. That's pretty thrash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that and Desecrator, which is the next song or in the next set of music we're going to play. You can definitely hear a lot of thrash there. And I think even on like No Place for Disgrace. There's a little bit more kind of thrash elements on that second record, but yeah, it's tough. I think that's what maybe caught me off guard about this record at first.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to listen to it the right way. Because if you expect, Newstead goes on to be part of the biggest thrash band ever, you just kind of expect that this is going to be like a thrash record.
Well, they also wrote A Fade to Black.
That's true.
Totally different, but
that is true. That is true.
Yeah, it is a weird, because when I listened to it a couple days ago, I wasn't even thinking of Newstead at all until you said, like, just mentioned that. I was like, oh shit, I forgot he was even in the band, and then said the Steve Harris stuff. It's like, okay, I just threw it on, listened to it a couple times, like, it's great.
Yeah,
I can't fault it for anything.
No, I mean, and it kind of like when it arrived, it was put up on Metal Blade. It, Bill Meteor, and also Slagle produced it. Kind of interesting. Yeah. I don't know how many albums Slagle like produced himself or co-produced.
Well,
he's probably sitting in the studio.
Is he on there as an executive producer? Because we all know what executive producers really do.
Yeah, exactly.
When I worked at Relapse, those some of the guys that owned the company, I won't say which, always had their name as an executive producer when they did nothing outside of fund the recording.
Yep. Which
I don't see as really shaping the record at all.
No. It's
validating what you've put into it as a company, I guess.
It's allowing the artist to shape the record the way they want to by having like the proper funding.
Yeah.
It's like a patron. It's like what you guys are doing for us.
Yes.
You guys aren't telling us what episodes to do, but you're allowing us to sort of maybe expand our boundaries a bit because we can update equipment. We can
letting us spread our wings and spend our cash on
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Patreons.
Supporting the economy, really.
Because No Place for Disgrace cost me $30 on Discogs. And that was, yeah. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I've been buying some.
It's kind of rough. So, but I was using Patreon money for this episode. So there you go. Your money is recycled directly back into the shows here.
Yeah, recent. What have I used my Patreon? It's been mostly for. I mean, it's all been for records.
I use it a lot for movies. I've been kind of really filling in movie gaps lately.
Oh, I bought Do you ever get into artist edition comic books? You ever seen a grown man naked?
Well, no. Tell me more.
They're wonderful.
I think we all want to know what these are.
They're hardcover books put out that are the full size of the original artwork of cool. Comics. So they're like 10 by 15 or larger if you get older stuff. And I dumped $100 and some change on a Daniel Clowes original studio edition book. Yeah. So what they do is they actually photograph the original art, so you see all like. What did they use whiteout on? What did like the actual size
so you
as
can
it was
see,
created?
Like the textures.
It's pretty. It's almost like you're taking a class.
Cool.
So that was the last Patreon thing. That's what I dumped a lot of. Most of it's been New Records, Enslaved, and Carcass, and I finally got a Muck on vinyl. And,
okay. Nice.
So a bunch of those is fixed, like On the Wings of Inferno, and all those have been reissued.
It's kind of weird.
Tormentor, yeah, all that stuff I've been grabbing. So
nice.
I need to probably pump the brakes a little bit with that, but thank you, patrons, for.
I'm waiting for that. Supposedly, I'm getting some hazard pay for being a teacher, so that'll be. I'll set that aside for probably Christmas presents or something. But
yeah.
So. Plus, I keep forgetting that I'm getting a coaching paycheck soon too, which it's just like a blur. I usually use that for Christmas money and other things too, pay off some credit cards. So
yeah, the weird thing with how the pandemic has been that you don't spend as much money on just like going out doing stuff. And I don't, so I have a savings. I buy stuff when I want it. I have a lot of work coming in. It's kind of crazy.
That's awesome.
It's just, we're missing out on, I really miss going to shows.
Yeah.
That's been a huge, like I don't miss going to bars and hanging out, but I miss going to shows. That's been the big thing.
Did I tell you that we went and saw Tenet in theaters? That was kind of a pretty surreal experience. They just reopened them like 2 weeks ago.
Do you have to? Is it just limited?
We pre-bought our tickets and they have like the tickets spaced out, like.
But you could sit next to your friends or something, right?
Yeah, so like you can close seating within each other. So like they have it like spaced in like twos. At least this is how MJR theaters had it. Yeah. Luckily nobody clapped. I feel like maybe the pandemic ended that, which makes me happy because I hate the clapping. Yeah. But yeah, there were 3 of us that went. So like we had to buy 2 and then 1. And then you could like move in closer because there's like a gap of 2 seats that are empty in between each other 2 seats.
How many people do you think were in the theater?
It was not a lot.
How are they even keeping the lights on?
They're trying things, I guess. I don't know. How were they keeping the lights on before? This is better than nothing, I guess. You know, I mean, we went to Waterford because that was like close to where the people I was hanging out with were.
Okay.
So I don't know what theaters are like up here. But
there honestly hasn't been. I mean, the most interesting thing around me with that has been the Ford, Wyoming drive-in.
Yeah,
that's been doing gangbusters. And they put in like Evil Dead, The Omen. They're pulling all these,
which I'd be down for going to see some of that kind of stuff. Well, I know Freedom Hill, where we saw Judas Priest, is doing drive-in theaters and stuff too. Yeah.
My car has daytime running lights, so I can't. I have to just rely on my battery. To keep my speakers on.
Oh, mine does too.
So it's like, what do you do for? That's like a oversight. It's like,
yeah, modern cars are too advanced.
So last time, and my car is a 2008.
Yeah.
But last time I went to one, I backed in, and then just left the battery on without the lights, and just opened up the hatchback and laid there and watched fucking Star Trek Into Darkness or some piece of shit. But all the stuff they've been playing lately is like double features of like stuff you want to see.
Like old horror shit. That's cool.
Hellraiser, like all kinds of shit. It's great.
Dang. Yeah, hopefully like now that cross country's ending, I can get back on like the radar screen of like having a life again. So,
I don't think I've seen a film in the theater since we saw the Skywalker abortion.
Oh, Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, around Christmas.
That's the last thing I saw in the theater.
Huh. Yeah,
before that
I saw some stuff. I saw Knives Out in the theater before pandemic and a few other things, and then Tenet was like a very Christopher Nolan movie.
I heard it was interesting, but like
it's a little cold.
Flawed.
It's a little cold emotionally, but I think I'll like it. It's like The Prestige. First time I saw The Prestige, I didn't quite know what to think about it, and then like I saw it a second time, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like see all the moving pieces.
Yeah,
you know.
There's I don't know. I don't ever revisit those movies.
I'll revisit like Memento, and a few others.
Okay.
You know, Prestige is like good. Like that's got good rewatch value.
And I saw like 1917, which was fine, but I'd never watch it again.
And I saw that in the theater, which was like the way to see it. Yeah. I don't know if I'd feel like watching it at home.
It's just like I get it. I get what they're trying to do. It's done well, but I don't. Ever
it's a cool like it's like Rope from Hitchcock. Like it's not my Hitchcock that I would go to, but it's like a cool exercise and experiment.
Or it's like
how to do
a really
stuff.
long version of Children of Men.
Yeah,
like that was enough for the perceived one scene.
Yeah.
You know, scene, but
or like Birdman, kind of how they did.
I saw that once, and that's enough.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying that same kind of element. Or whatever. Yeah.
And it's certain. I think things work better in that format, but it works the best when it's a gimmick, but also like furthers the story more. So
sure. Yeah, and
I've just been watching old shit again, like Jaws and stuff, and just being like, enamored how fucking good it is.
You know what's interesting about Jaws? We just watched it in my film class. I was showing my students, and I said to them, one of the things I want you to pay attention to in Jaws is I want you to ask yourself at the end, this was the biggest blockbuster of its time. Broke all the records until Star Wars broke those records. I said,
2 years later,
would this movie be made as a blockbuster in 2020? And, the kids, when they start thinking about it, they were like, no. I said, why not? And we talked about it. They're like, well, there's like long stretches of like just talking.
Oh, God, I miss that so much.
And character development. I said, what are, and it was, I go like, think about that. Think like the ADD, like the attention span, like that. And I go, were any of you bored? And people were like, no. I said, so you have the ability.
Yeah.
It's just, you've been dumbed down. They've like trained you to expect dumbness.
Well, they've made, as you were saying earlier, like they make it for China. They make it for the most mass audience that doesn't offend anything. Big spectacle.
Sure.
low odds for anything.
Like you would never see the USS Indianapolis dialogue scene in a modern Hollywood movie. In a
it takes too long, and it's not even a long scene.
It's not, but it does so much. I said every single one of you held your breath during that scene, almost as much as when the shark was scaring you, and the kids were like, "Fuck, you're right." It would just hit them like how well crafted that was. Quint as a character, like everything.
You cared about all the characters, even though like Dreyfus is a little bitch. Well, he seems like one at first, and then they start showing the scars, and like it's nice to see two people that like didn't like each other at first have a begrudging respect, and then actual like honest like caring about each other is happening.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely, and I think that was one of the things. I don't know. My kids are always sort of blown away after we talk about a movie. Like they don't almost know. They know that they liked a movie, but they don't know why they liked it until we like have conversations, and then like they're just hit with these revelations, and they're like, "Oh, you can just see like the wheels turning."
I think deep in our subconscious, like we have all these like certain tropes as a society or a race of people or as human beings that we need in our stories that we aren't getting in anything. And when we get it, it's just like, you know, a man who's starving giving him a fucking hot dog, you know? It's like, oh God, this is amazing.
And I did point out, because I don't want to be just kind of like a old man yelling on my lawn. I said, I did point out and give credit where credit's due. I said, one thing that I will give, like, and I'm a fairly decent fan of the Marvel movies, not like diehard like some people are, but I did say that last Avengers movie was 3.5 hours, and it did leave some moments to like some quiet moments at like the grave sites, and like, do you know what I mean? There was quieter moments in it that allowed the action sequences at the end to like be better because you cared a little bit.
The perfect counterpoint, to that is watching The Rise of Skywalker. That is just like somebody you standing there and somebody throwing shit at you.
It was the first 55 minutes were like, then this happens, and now this is happening, and now get ready for this because this is happening, and this is going to happen next, and this is going to happen.
The only scene that I can remember in that movie where it slowed down was where fucking Harrison Ford comes on.
Was he in that movie?
Yeah. He has the little talk with with Adam Driver.
That's right.
It takes a second. And I think the reason Billy D. Williams seems so fucking slow motion is because nothing's supposed to go that fast.
Yeah.
He's like an 81-year-old man. I wish it was slow down to like get to his pace a little bit, because when the old actors were in, I was like, oh, thank fucking God you can slow down for a second.
Yeah. But
then seeing the Last Avengers, that had a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah.
Huge spectacles, but it slowed down.
But like in that whole middle section.
Yeah.
Like
even the one before that, the fuck was
Infinity War.
Infinity War and the
Endgame
were both good.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like, but they're an anomaly.
That's what I mean.
Few
and they had earned that because of 20 movies leading up to it or whatever.
They did the thing is, that's the weird thing is you have to take 20 movies to do the characterization that Jaws does in an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes or something.
Like, my roommate and I have been rewatching, Buffy and Angel on Prime.
How bad do the effects look on?
Some of the effects are a little bad, but the storytelling's so good that you don't care, and like watching the pacing of like a late 90s 44-minute like good writing show, it still holds up. Like he was compelled. He has no credence, no loyalty to it like we do or anything, and he was just like, it held his attention like for most of the whole time.
I used to think that that the kind of conceit of the commercial show where you have these act breaks was a hindrance to storytelling, but it's not.
If it's done right.
If it's done right. Think of it now, because I go back, I'm an unabashed Star Trek fan, and Star Trek Next Generation, some of those episodes are so impeccably paced based on that.
Yeah.
There's like not a bit of fat on, just perfect characterization and everything.
Well, you don't need the Game of Thrones cliffhanger at the end always if you have the cliffhangers going into commercials. You can kind of do a little bit more rise, and it's not just always a build to like some insane conclusion. Yeah. Which is fine. I don't mind that. Like it worked pretty well when it worked well with Game of Thrones, like in the earlier seasons.
It would be if we could come back to a middle of stuff where it's not, you don't have to watch 10 episodes to get a finished story that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you can just get an okay story with like, you had 22 episodes of season for Next Generation, and you'd get probably like 15 great episodes, and then another like 8 pretty good ones,
and that's kind of what
clunkers.
And that's kind of what I was telling him. I said that one of the struggles that like a show like Buffy or shows of that era had is they had to fill 24 hours. And I said, and you're gonna get generally like to me, like in season 2 and 3 of Buffy, there's like usually in each season like 3 or 4 episodes that can just be skipped.
Yeah, they're filler.
Just filler.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with like the 10 episodes like seasons that you see now.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have enough episodes where you can do an episode like Hush, where it's completely silent for the whole 44 minutes or whatever.
Unless you're Breaking Bad. And you do like the bug episode. But that's because Vince Gilligan is operating with a whole different set of playbook.
Nobody else is doing that.
Exactly.
Better Call Saul has done some very equally as like in rap. Like that's one of the few shows I love watching.
That show continues to get better every season.
Just do stuff.
Yeah. Like I just want to watch.
Yeah. I think there's one more season happening.
Yeah. The last season was incredible,
fantastic.
man. Yeah. The desert
it's the only thing I look forward to.
Yeah. It's so good.
As far as like television.
Sure.
Was The Boys is pretty good though.
I have not watched that yet. That's on my list.
2 seasons on Prime.
Yeah. It's on my list.
First season is unbelievable. Second's 85% pretty good.
I have I'll be honest, I've been mostly watching movies when I come home. The only TV, because Survivor's not on right now, and there's just really not much else on. I did watch the first episode of the new season of Fargo, and it was all right.
The Chris Rock one?
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
I haven't watched anything since the first.
Dude, watch season 2 and 3 of Fargo. Like season 2,
I'll see what
season 2 is so good. Season 2, there's one episode, and those of you who have seen Fargo know what I'm talking about, where the Native American character, who's also plays like the kind of the main Native American character in like Westworld, when they find like the native tribe.
Oh yeah, that guy's great. Yeah,
he's the hitman in season 2, and he's like a Vietnam vet. And
maybe I did see season 2.
Yeah, it's like back in the 70s, and there's okay, that season's awesome. Yeah, what's her name from Spider-Man? Kristen.
From the Tobey Maguire ones?
Yeah, from Interview with the Vampire. Kristen, what's her face? Dunst.
Dunst.
Yeah, she's in it.
From Melancholia, if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I do. Yeah, good stuff. So, Flotsam Jetsam. There's a quote from the vocalist, and basically what we're dealing with here is we got Jason Newsted on bass, who's writing most of the lyrics and some of the music. You've got Eric A.K. Knudsen on vocals, and he's a really interesting vocalist, and we'll get into him a little bit. And then you got 2 guitar players, Ed Carlson and Mike Gilbert, and then you got Kelly David Smith on drums. And it's a cool quote here from one of the pop-off books that I've mentioned in some of our main episodes, that it's Eric, the vocalist, talking about how this received 6K review in Kerrang, which I think was the first album that Kerrang ever gives 6Ks. Normally,
it's a perfect score, right?
It's like a perfect score or above perfect. I think 5 is like a perfect. So they think they like it's like giving it's like giving an 11 out of 10.
Okay,
or something. So like,
I never read Kerrang as a kid because it was just bands I didn't know who they were,
and we couldn't get it very often. I didn't see it that much.
I'd see it at bookstores occasionally, but everybody in the cover, I was like,
it's probably all bands we love now.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it was probably like what Rage and Riot and Halloween. It was all these probably like German fucking awesome Blind Guardian and shit like that. Yeah. Fucking Sacrifice and Exciter. You're like, who are these fuckers?
Raven, that sounds stupid.
Yeah, god damn it. But it says, how did he react to that? And he says, well, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. When I first saw that, I was like, whoa, we've made it. I'm going to be Mr. Big Shot. That 6K carried us through a lot of stuff, too. It got us on a big Megadeth tour. It got us all kinds of stuff. And it got us with a good manager who ended up losing his mind. That was a huge point for us. And then Ed Carlson, one of the guitar players, talks about how Jason basically wrote Doomsday, all the lyrics and a lot of the music. He's a writer. He does that stuff all the time. Just because he joined Metallica doesn't mean he quit writing. If anything, he's doing it more, but they still don't use one idea of his on the last record. So that was an interview from 2003. When did he leave Metallica?
Garage Inc. was the last thing he was on. He might have been on one of the S&M lives or something, but as far as...
yeah, he wasn't on that shitty album.
I think Death Magnetic was... who's on... I think that was Trilio, wasn't it? No, he was... No.
Was that Robert... Or did
no,
Bob
Death Magnetic's the last thing he was on.
Oh, was he on Death Magnetic?
I'm pretty sure because then on Saint Anger,
Isn't
Bob Rock played on.
Yeah, but Death Magnetic's after Saint Anger.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So it's got to be... It wasn't him. Might have been Trujillo then.
Yeah,
because
the last thing he
in
was
Some
on
Kind of
was,
Monsters, they're interviewing the bassist. They're trying to find the new bassist in that documentary, which is Saint Anger kind of era.
Yeah, so Trilio's first thing was Death Magnetic.
Okay, so this, I'm trying to think, when did Popoff publish these fucking thrash books?
Death Magnetic was like 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2007, 2008, somewhere in that realm. I'm trying to find like when.
So 2003 would have probably been, was it Reload? Jesus, I don't.
Reload, S&M. I think he's definitely an S&M. And he, the Garage Revisited or whatever. So.
Well, let's get into some shit here.
But yeah, so it says that, Metallica's not using his stuff. He says, I know the idea that Jay's probably brought to the drawing board for them, and they were probably scared of them. Which, when you hear the compositions here, you understand how he probably could have been threatening because of like how complex like some of the shit he's putting together is.
Saint Anger was 2003, but he's not on it.
Yeah, so he quit or kind of before them. It says, when Newsted left Flotsam and joined Metallica, Peter, their manager, said, I don't ever want to hear this Flotsam and Jetsam thing. I don't want you asking favors for them, this and that. He kind of laid this big old arm of law on Jason. That was immediately after he joined the band. Probably the same day. It just never worked out from the time he started with them until now. It was always like we were taboo for some reason. We would have been a great band to open for Metallica. It would have been perfect. He's probably not wrong. You know, it's just like, it's kind of weird that he sort of had to like cut ties with all that,
I feel that I understand. I didn't know the whole, I mean, you hear the stories and all the, Year and a Half of Life and all this shit, the Metallica documentaries that were, kind of ubiquitous when we were younger, but I never understood why he quit, because I was like, oh man, just the money would have been, but he didn't get he was like hogtied.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was used to create, complete creative freedom. And then he's in Metallica, which, okay, cool. It's a great band.
It's a good paycheck. Yep.
You get some co-writing credit for Blackened or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't hear your bass on the first record. Like, it's like, what can you do to a man before he decides to just like...
It's like dignity in pride versus like, finance and success.
Yeah, and he's got more money
that.
than with residuals that he doesn't need to worry about anything. But that's why he went and worked with like Voivod and all these other, fucking things. So,
yeah. Remind me before we get to No Place for Disgrace, I have a story about him joining Metallica and leaving Flotsam. So kind of interesting. But yeah, they're kind of just a strange band. I mean, I really said that they fit in more with the Armored Saints and the Metal Churches and Queensryches and some of those kind of bands and stuff like that. Hammerhead, which we opened up with, really kind of lays all the cards on the table. You get killer Newsted bass, which is all over this record. Catchy vocals. Talk to me about AK, because you had some thoughts, and I have some thoughts on him.
He's got... Chewing on ice cube right now. Sorry, guys.
Oh. Hey, it's for Patreons. They don't care.
He has the thing that was screaming out to me was Mark Escaveda from Death Angel vibe.
Okay.
To his vocals. That's like the number one thing that jumped out to me. That more John Bushy, soulful vocal than what we're typically dealing
there's
with.
Like some thrash. To me, there's like some Fates Warning, Jeff Tate kind of stuff too. Maybe not.
I don't know if Fates Warning enough to say.
It's just the vibe. It's the serious vibe, or the more, I don't want to say sophisticated, but there's like something there where it's like there's a little bit more honesty there, heartfeltness. And that you're getting that, it's less about like the screaming and the like roughness of like the thrash vocals, and more that there is kind of some, it's a je ne sais quoi that I can't quite put my finger on.
Certain undefinable quality.
Yeah, but like Fates Warning, a lot of those like prog metal bands kind of have it, and maybe it's called pretentiousness, perhaps.
Pretension, yes. Dream Theater had it.
There's something there. Where like they're trying to be more serious. To me, there's like a little bit more. Now, not on Hammerhead. Hammerhead's like a song about like fucking basically and stuff. So, but so the lyrics are. It's weird because like the lyrics are like better suited for like another genre than like what is being sung about here, compared to like the sophisticatedness of the music and the way that the vocals are kind of sung and things like that. It's like the whole band is like a mishmash of like different influences and strangeness, and it kind of works, obviously, but.
but it's way weird. I don't know. I think they're very different from most of their contemporaries in that aspect too. Like the name is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I looked up the name at one point and I forget what it is. It's like a term for being like
crap.
Yeah.
Like wading through the Flotsam Jetsam of
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's like definitely a negative.
It made me look up what that meant as a kid. I was like, I don't like it. It doesn't sound interesting enough to like pull me in. It doesn't sound evil. It doesn't sound occulty or anything.
No,
the covers are not blowing my skirt up too much.
They're not great. I mean, they're not bad, but like the next one is. Did you look at this one? Just look at No Place for Disgrace. It's like kind of like a bad Street Fighter kickboxer movie.
It looks like somebody went to a figure painting class to a taekwondo studio and gave a guy a snake eye sword or something.
It sort of looks like the kind of painting you'd find at a Salvation Army, and you'd be like, "Oh, cool,
cool! I'll take this. This is a good $5."
Yeah, they're just such an odd band. And I mean, in the inner sleeve, 2 of the guys are wearing their own shirts, but then another person's wearing a Centennial Beast shirt, which is cool. And that's a band I've recently kind of picked up. And that makes sense.
An Anthrax shirt and a BC Rich shirt.
Yeah.
And the guy's got a BC Rich guitar. So he's obviously
getting paid.
Potentially sponsored and had some free. Well, just like Mustaine talking about how we look like dirtbags, but they gave us new shoes.
Yeah.
So that's why they're wearing what they're wearing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think where these guys were from. Were they out of Phoenix or were they California?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I thought they were kind of out of somewhere a little bit kind of different.
Can you think of another Phoenix band?
Weren't Sacred Right from Arizona as well? I think they were.
They might have been. I'm not.
But they might have been Scottsdale. So not exactly Phoenix.
Scottsdale is kind of like more of the interesting area of Arizona.
Yeah, I like Phoenix. I don't know.
I like Scottsdale was as up in the mountains more as actually had a climate. It wasn't just a
I think it was up
desert.
by Sedona.
Yeah.
Because the last time I was out there, the girl I was hanging out with, Savannah, we went up to, she took me to Sedona because we wanted to go to Maynard's Winery, which is named Merkin Winery after a pubic wig.
Nice.
Yeah. So
sounds about right.
So we sampled some wines at Maynard from Tools.
My cousin used to work for him.
No shit.
He went to school to be a vineyard, or what do you call a guy that does wine? Yeah,
I know exactly.
Like a vicar.
Yeah.
But whatever that is, he worked for them for a while.
Not a sommelier, because sommelier is beer. Right?
No, sommelier. They're wine experts.
Okay.
That would tell you what's what. But he was actually in the growing process.
Okay.
And stuff. But now he's going to school for mathematician or what?
Hey, sounds like a smart guy.
Eclectic dude.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting dude. But there are some interesting things that happen on Hammerhead too. Near the end, the song kind of shifts at the 420 mark, and that's where I really started to hear the German speed metal influence a lot. It's kind of bathed in that, I don't know, Blind Guardian, early Blind Guardian, I guess, early Halloween, Rage, some of those kind of bands, Running Wild. Some of those elements are kind of baked into different parts. I don't know what bands kind of jumped out to you the most when you heard these, besides Iron Maiden. I mean, Iron Maiden we're about to get into with these next 2 kind of big epic songs coming up. But
one of my big note is more Nwabum than thrash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, to go back real quick to the Flotsam Jetsam term, it's a nautical term describing goods washed overboard by waves or deliberately thrown overboard by a ship's crew. So coming over from waves is the flotsam. The jetsam's what you throw out into the water.
Very Jaws appropriate. What we were talking about before. There's a lot of flotsam.
See, this is all thought out.
Yeah, we knew what we were doing. We really put a lot of thought into all the stuff we do for Patreon shows.
What's Scheider's line? What?
We'll need a bigger boat.
No. The you come down and shovel this shit or whatever right before he throws in the thing pops up for the first time.
Yeah. When he's throwing the chum and shit in there. Yeah. It's cool because, I don't think kids know the story of Moby Dick because I don't think they read it in school anymore. It's too fucking long and arduous, I think, for high school kids.
The writing's difficult to penetrate.
It's tough. I read it in college, on my own, just for shits and giggles, and I really enjoyed it when I got to the end. But it was a tough slog to get through.
Watch the Patrick Stewart TV movie.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah.
I've seen the Gregory Peck movie.
I've seen his too.
Yeah. Gregory Peck won't.
He's dead now. So
yeah, he won't do a lot of things. I was listening to the Projection Booth episode on Jaws before I showed it in class, because I always like to, just kind of get my brain wired in, and it gets me thinking about things, about the movie. And I guess Spielberg tried to get the rights to have a scene like where a character's watching the Moby Dick movie on TV. Just
the Peck movie?
Yeah, just to sort of like kind of slam the Captain Ahab,
not that you,
Captain Quinn. Yeah. Just, again,
beat you over the head.
Kind of the way like in like John Carpenter movies when characters are always watching like old 50s sci-fi on TV or something like that. And
they're watching in Halloween. They're watching the thing. What's his name?
Well, it's Howard Hawks.
Howard Hawks,
but it's not. It's Howard.
It's
Hawks.
like Val Lewton. Val Lewton was the executive producer, but basically,
but he was filming behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gregory Peck wouldn't sign off on it because he hates the movie and hates his performance, and wouldn't like allow Spielberg to use it, which is really weird. I guess I never knew that he like has some real issues with like that adaptation of Moby Dick. But
that's weird because he's always kind of the same in everything. Yeah. Like he's great in The Omen, and
I just recently watched him in
Kill a Mockingbird, all that shit.
Spellbound. I hadn't seen that in years. The Hitchcock. So, he's Gregory Peck. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Cape Fear. He's just, that's what he does. So,
he pecks it up.
Yeah. So that's what you got kind of going on there. But this next set that we're going to kind of get into here, I think this is, to me, this is the make or break it for whether or not you're a Flotsam and Jetsam fan of this era. And I really, if you're going to be a Flotsam and Jetsam fan, why not be a fan of this era? It's compared to later eras that we can neither confirm nor deny is good or bad, but from what our hunch tells us, it's not as good as this.
I have a feeling if the main songwriter of the band is gone, you've got a 50-50 chance. And from what I've seen, I'm going to say it's probably not as good. It's not as much my taste.
Something, yeah. Some of the ingredients just didn't hit right, but it works on these two records, and so I think you'll kind of dig it. The title track is incredible. Like, it's 9 minutes long. The opening of it sounds like Hotel California. And now all the listeners are going to hear that for the rest of their life whenever they...
Yeah.
It gives me, like, in all the best ways. Like, Hotel California is a song I'm completely sick of. But objectively, when I remove myself, it's like Stairway to Heaven. When I remove myself, it's a fucking great song. Yeah. Like, in terms of how it's constructed and shit. Yeah. I just don't want to hear it anymore. Unless it's the Spanish version of Big Lebowski. And then I'm pretty okay. But, like...
I like hearing certain parts of it.
Yeah. Like, the opening I like.
Yeah.
Once, like, Don Henley starts singing and the chorus comes in, like, I fucking hate myself. But that whole, like, intro... Yeah. It's good.
It sounds like they could kick into a heavy metal song.
Yeah, exactly. And guess what? It does. It's called fucking Doomsday for the Deceiver. And really, the first fucking 3 minutes of this song are, like, this weird... This is what I wrote. This weird thrash hybrid mixed with Fate's Warning or early Queensryche. It's this just impressive, mature songwriting for a debut. And we talked about this for those of you that heard our Eternal Nightmare show, how a band can come out the gates with the ability of writing this.
Fully formed and at 10.
That's fucking tough. I mean, Maiden did it with Phantom of the Opera. Like, in a weird way. Their
self-title, though, they had all that shit was sitting around for 3 or 4 years.
Exactly. But, like, Maiden didn't even do what Maiden eventually did for a couple records. Like, not till really Hallowed Be Thy Name do you really get a true, like, Maiden epic.
Well, and they stole that.
Sure.
Some people will say.
Yeah.
Which is like...
it's tricky. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's, Power Slave, they're really firing on, like, a lot, they're Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Power Slave.
I think Power Slave's where they're, like, they're 115% made.
They're fucking at their peak of their power.
Yeah.
And you hear a song like this, and this song could be on like Power Slave.
Yeah.
In like the way it's conceived and the movements it sort of has. You just don't hear fucking debut bands doing shit like this, especially out of what was perceived to be thrash. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how they were marketed or what they thought of themselves. They're covered in the thrash book. They're in the thrash decibel. I
that
don't
wasn't
really
even
know.
a thing.
So
like those terms are all usually kind of like after the fact, because that thrash term originally was a hardcore punk term for just like fast garbage, basically.
Yeah.
But then it was co-opted by, I'm sure, journalists to describe what they
kind of
heard.
like Nuwabum.
Yeah, because none of this stuff is really, it's all after the fact. I mean, like any history, you can't really judge it until after the fact. So then you find the similarities, like, okay, like looking at the piece over there, like grunge music, like Alice in Chains and Nirvana and Pearl Jam don't really sound anything alike outside of very superficial things.
Yeah,
and how they
there's
kind
like
of
a general, there's
where
kind of like a
from.
general tone to like their,
Yeah.
there's like a melancholy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Iggy Pop describes grunge as like kind of being sullen music.
Yeah,
a little bit. You know, like goth music.
But
is
to
kind of
throw it
sullen.
all in one category is still kind of like,
I agree.
It's not a perfect
Like
science.
the very first Cult record is kind of goth, but it's like it doesn't sound like Pornography Cure or Joy Division or like.
Or Sisters of Mercy,
Yeah,
or Bauhaus,
like, so like,
yeah,
there's these all overarching terms that kind of,
or New Wave. Like, does
Yeah.
New Order sound like Flock of Seagulls? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. One's way better than the other, but
I mean, the Cars, did they sound like Flock of Seagulls? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's like the thing at hand. So I guess, for any of our long-term listeners, if you were kind of a little bit older than us and you were kind of around when stuff like this hit, I'm kind of curious to, know what the sort of vibe was. Clearly, Kerrang and other journalists were picking up on like what they were doing here.
which makes a lot of sense because Kerrang is kind of like an old guard for this stuff.
And
so
these guys sound like a new version of the old guard.
So of course they're going to be more interested in it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like me. I get fucking excited whenever I hear like recycled Brave Murder Day riffs. You know what I mean? Or like Shades of God, Paradise Loft's guitar, like in a band. Like, oh, you've piqued my interest. You've caught something that's like it will never go away from me. It's like part of that really magical time.
Yeah, you've got like a good 10 to 15 year, maybe not even that much, maybe 10 years, where you really know what you like.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just slightly different versions of that. But it's always, that's like the core.
Yeah. It's very rare that like, I guess there's probably, I think I probably an exception to the rule sometimes. Cause like I've gone in recent times and like embraced like kind of synthy 80s stuff in a way. Where like I didn't like that growing up at all. So like
I love John Carpenter shit growing up.
I guess I did too, but I didn't think of it as like music. I just thought it was soundtrack. I'm thinking more like new wave and 80s kind of stuff. Like I kind of dismissed all that shit. Like,
See, I was a radio guy growing up before I actually bought tapes and stuff. I was usually drawn to more of that type of.
Were you? Okay.
New wavy, synthy. Like it went really quickly into the more aggressive stuff. And I was thinking it was just like whatever made me feel something.
That's true.
I liked.
And I guess I remember that stuff. I remember liking like Duran Duran and stuff as like a kid, but
yeah,
I guess I got drawn really into angsty stuff.
Makes sense.
Because of grunge and what I was kind of surrounded
that
with.
age makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah. The other thing that curious with the vocals here with Knudsen is in this song I notice a lot of like Halford screams. There's a lot of Rob Halford in some of the stuff that he does, like vocally.
Just a little Diamond in there too.
Yeah, a lot of King Diamond, a lot of Halford, a lot of Jeff Tate, some of that kind of stuff. So it's cool stuff. So we'll get into that. We've got the title track, and then we've got Desecrator, and then we're going to end with the other epic tune. So Desecrator is like a palate cleanse in between. I kind of nudged it in there. It's a good song, but it's not like it's just more of like an average song of what the normal stuff on Doomsday sounds like. But to me, the two centerpieces are Doomsday and Metalshock. And this is what's so strange. In the sequencing, those songs are back to back. That's like a weird fucking choice.
Yeah.
Like that's like putting like, Master of Puppets and Orion like next to each other. You know what I mean? Like
I wonder
like
how
weird...
much like care is taken in sequencing. I know some bands like pride themselves on it.
Let me think. You know what? In looking at it, I bet you the vinyl. I think Doomsday is track 5 and closes side A, and Metalshock opens side B. So you have
that makes more sense.
You got to flip the record,
and that makes
flip the cassette.
Strong closing, strong start.
I get it.
Makes a lot of sense.
I get it.
Yeah, because that's some. I don't think about that quite as
putting
much.
2 like 9-minute metal songs next to each other is weird. I mean, I guess Power Slave and Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner are back to back, and Power Slave's like 7.5, 8 minutes, and Rhyme's 13.
But you're flipping.
No, that's on side B.
That's on side B.
Yeah, it's just weird. You just don't see it very often. You usually kind of space that stuff out a little, but.
And I would, if I was like maybe 5-10 years older, I would have been more of like the sides guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody was like, okay, what's the best sides to a record? I was like, I have to go research this a little bit. Because I was more of a tape guy.
Which had sides.
But sometimes they were different than the vinyl, depending on how long you could fit stuff on and whatever. But yeah, that's something interesting to think about.
Yeah. We'll ponder it while you guys listen to Doomsday for the Deceiver, Desecrator, and Metalshock. That was Metalshock, Desecrator, and Doomsday for the Deceiver. And
not Toxic Shock, Metalshock.
yes, not Toxic or Toxic Waltz. Not that either.
Sure. Toxic Waltz syndrome.
Yes. What must that be like? Is that
Toxic
a combination
shock is
of
a
Toxic
bad thing.
Shock and like thrashing around in a mosh pit?
No, it's how you react to getting Toxic Shock.
Is you can do the Toxic
It's
Waltz?
Shock Waltz.
The Toxic Waltz. You know, I didn't mention this in the Violence episode, but one of the songs on Violence that we didn't play was it Calling in the Corner? It's like Toxic Waltz.
Yeah.
It's like got all that kind of stuff. You know, they even, I think, made a video for it. But yeah, so speaking of Toxic Shock Waltz. Speaking of Metalshock, yes. That is the
Do you
song.
want to know my 2-word review of that song?
Yeah.
Wow, epic.
Wow, epic. It is. I just wrote the other epic masterpiece. To me, this is the showcase of Newstead, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one where like you see what could he have brought to Metallica if they had let him? Like in hindsight,
compositional.
when you hear this
elements, yeah.
record and then you know what like they allowed Cliff to do, like what could they have actually done with him?
I think that Newstead was probably had more skills when it really came down to it. I think Cliff had a lot of flair,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as his writing is concerned, we didn't see enough of it to really know. But this, you've got 2 records of great shit, and then seeing what he did in Metallica was great. If he would have given a little bit more, like, I get why they didn't, but
It becomes a different band in a sense.
yeah, I mean, I think
Although you could give him a song or 2 per record.
he's only got co-writing on 1, right? On just Blackened.
On that whole, he never wrote. I didn't know on Load and Reload. I have no idea on those.
I didn't look on a lot of that stuff.
Huh.
I don't know if he's got like co-writing credits on anything on the Black Album either. I feel like he probably does.
Yeah, I don't know.
But a lot of that stuff it's like who came up with the riff that becomes the songwriting, and then so Hetfield usually gets double duty with lyrics and credits, and then Lars always gets it for arrangements and shit.
Yeah.
But I feel like though, like seeing there's so much video of them fucking around for the Black record that I'm sure he brought stuff to the table.
I would hope.
Like what was like, I think he's got a really good sense of composition and flow, and just I think he's an incredible player too.
He's coming at
Energy wise, like Jesus, him and Steve Harris are.
I was gonna say Steve
there
Harris
for-
is
for
to
energy.
me like who I connect him to.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I think they're like kindred spirits.
And I didn't know that
That
before
sense.
I really dived into this
I had no idea
Flotsam
until
stuff.
2 days ago.
Yeah, and that like kind of blows my mind. You hear it in that last song with like the bass interlude that he does that is very reminiscent of like the stop and like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner or
Yeah.
something along those lines. So, you know, clearly he's possessed by this like ghost of Steve Harris, and I guess I didn't hear it in metal very much outside of Iron Maiden, you know. Before, you know, I mean, you got your Primuses and some of those kind of like anomalies like through the years, but I
Yeah.
just like a bass driven metal band. It's an oddity. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure if we put our
King's
heads
X?
together. Yeah, but even they had like really great guitar.
And the bass was more like bopping around. Kind
Faith
of
No
shit.
More, because they kind
Yeah.
of were bringing some like kind of, but like Jim Martin still fucking shredded. You know?
Yeah, but Gould was like a main songwriter,
That's true.
and him and I can't think of the drummer's name.
Mike Borden.
Mike Borden. They were both like fucking Berkeley students or something.
Oh, were they?
So
Okay.
and they were like the original.
The
Start-
the guys
started
that
the
go
band.
all the way back with
Yeah.
Chuck. Was Chuck there at the beginning?
Mosley?
Yeah.
I think he was the second vocalist.
Okay.
But he was the first recorded vocalist.
Courtney Love sang for Faith No More at one point, I remember. I don't know, like, where in the timeline.
I don't know.
She
a
tried
song
out.
or something.
Like, she
Oh,
tried
no, that's
out.
right. Yeah, that
or
was.
she was, like, did a gig with them, or I don't even know.
I think that was after Mosley, before Pat.
Before Pat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. So,
There's so much shit on YouTube, man. I can't even believe how many documentaries and shit are on YouTube.
yeah, I need to.
I just watched one on Faith No More. It was like 20 minutes about We Care a Lot.
Oh, nice.
But it went through the whole kind of like the band coming up to that point.
Yeah.
It was like an autoplay of like, you know how there's all these bands getting together playing songs over Skype or whatever, Zoom or something. There was, who was it? The last singer of Dillinger.
Oh, okay.
Greg something.
Greg Pushada. The guy who's in Black Queen, which is like a cool band now.
Him, and then a handful of other people, like pretty big, like well-known people that did We Care a Lot. They had like Kevin Sharp even came in to do a chorus on it, screaming it.
It wasn't through that one talk show with the dude with corpse paint, was it?
No. It's a similar thing as that.
I just saw something with him the other day that
but
was
at the
awesome.
very end, Billy Gould's, when they end the song, he's like, "Hey, man," like he didn't get to play on it.
That's funny.
But I've been watching a lot of the Charlie Benante stuff too, because he does some where he does everything except for vocals. He'll play bass, he'll play guitar and drums on the songs.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I've been seeing those kind of floating around quite a bit. It's going to drive me wild. Brain Daler.
He did Stairway to Heaven or something.
He did, and then...
Where he was doing vocals.
Yes, he just did vocals on something else, and it wasn't Stairway. It's going to fucking drive me nuts. I'm not going to be able to find it. But he like put like a mullet wig on and stuff like that, and they had like the drummer from Baroness was on it, and a guy from Felter Talk.
Was it a Van Halen song?
Maybe it was a Van Halen song.
It was a Van Halen song. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those popping up.
Yeah, they're funny. My favorite one is Rocket Queen. That was the one I sent to you and Chris.
Oh, that's on the Black Metal Makeup Guys show. Whatever. I can't think that's called.
I can't remember either. But
2 Minutes to Late Night.
There it is. There you go. So Rocket Queen, the story, of course, where the girl's getting fucked in it.
Yeah.
And they recorded it. So he's fucking spilling coffee on himself, going, like doing it. Like, it's pretty fucking hilarious.
I have to, yeah.
It's really good. So, but anyways, Flotsam Jetsam.
Yeah. We haven't seen any of their songs yet on.
You know us. This is what we do. So I do want to talk about, because we're talking about Newstead, and he kind of seems to be like one of the focal points, obviously, as a songwriter. But in the Pop-Off book, they talk a little bit about, they get Eric, a.k.a. the vocalist, to sort of talk about what it was like to lose Newstead to Metallica. And he says, I can remember a few weeks before we got the phone call, he was reading the article in the paper about Cliff Burton dying, and he was all excited about it. He's like, Cliff Burton died. I'm so bummed, and I'm super excited at the same time. I was like, what are you excited about? He said, I'm going to be in Metallica's next bass player. We were all laughing at him, saying, yeah, right. Sure enough, a couple weeks later, he got the call. He went out for the audition, and we were all hoping and praying he was going to mess up. He called us back the next night saying he had to go for callbacks. We thought, that's it. We've lost him. Sure enough, he was gone. We wished him well. We were really excited for him. At the same time, we were just going, what are we going to do now? None of us did anything. Jason did all the songwriting, all the lyric writing, all the business, all the interviews. He did all of it. All we did was do what he told us to do. So when we left, we were just sitting around with our thumbs up our butt going, nobody knows how to do anything. What are we going to do? The next thing you know, we're turning on new bass players to try and fix everything, try to save everything. What we should have been doing was doing it all ourselves and quit being lazy. Everything turned out pretty cool anyways. Once in a while, he'll come into town for somebody's birthday or whatever. Last year sometime, he called us up, and we got the original band back together. Before we were Flotsam, we were called the Dogs. So we got all the original Dog members back together just for practice that night of drinking and stuff. We got together and jammed Old Priest and Maiden stuff. So,
didn't Slagle? Isn't he the one that hooked him up?
I think so. Yeah,
because Slagle was kind of like
because Flotsam was on Metal Blade, so he would have known.
And he was like friends with Lars and James, so yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And so they talk about one of the last times they jammed together, and they said this was not long before he started thinking about what jerks Metallica were. The last time we jammed, they told him to stay away from us. They didn't want us tagging along on his coat strings and making something out of ourselves off of his name. So.
They were very... I don't think they ever believed their hype until... I don't even know if they still do now. That's one of those things, but they don't have that thrust to still really like kick it out. Because I keep holding out that we're going to get a great Metallica record again, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, we got some great songs on the last one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I just want, when I heard
Spit Out the Bone and things, some of that kind of stuff is
yeah,
like
those twin the twin harmonies shit. Please fucking do some more of that, dude. That's why I fell in love with that band to begin with.
Yeah, they're in their own bubble.
Yeah, they're kind
of disconnected from.
I couldn't even imagine trying to be creative in that kind of world where you just got like 6 assistants and people are like, "Oh, yeah, that's great. That's awesome, man."
Yeah, everything sounds great.
I thought like if Rick Rubin came probably the closest, but he wasn't able to produce them down to making an album that was a good like 38, 40 minutes. It was
I don't think that's going to
way
exist.
too long.
I don't even know if that was really. I mean, Masters was long. You know, I mean, you had 2 8-minute long songs and a lot of like 5 or 6
42 minutes.
No, it's got to be longer than that. I mean, you got 16 minutes and 2 songs, 3 songs that are 8 minutes long. Masters, Disposable Heroes, and Orion. So that's 24 minutes and just 3 songs, and you still had 5 songs left. I'm betting it's like 55 minutes. Maybe.
You're very close.
Was it?
54:47.
Whoa, that's damn.
That's pretty long for that era.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So yeah. I think they were already kind of long in the tooth with like how they kind of thought about things, but
they did longer songs, not a lot of crappy songs.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And I mean, Newsstand certainly is not the antidote for that because we just were talking about 2 songs that were 8 and 9 minutes long. So
I would love for them to do more long songs.
Yeah.
But just not long albums that are songs where they'd be a great EP.
Well, think about like Load and Reload. If you took the best of those 2 albums into one album, it's a great album.
Is it?
It is. That there are songs there that are. It's kind of like Sound of White Noise. You can't think of it in the same sort of way, but like they wrote good songs. Like
the thing
Until It Sleeps is like a great kind of Danzig song.
And the problem is the lyrics are bad.
Yeah,
I feel like the lyrics on both of those albums are bad.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like
I feel like Black Album has enough decent lyrics where you're not talking about fuel and
was Fuel on that?
Fuel's on
oh shit, you're right.
Reload or Load. Give me fuel, give me fire. It just sounds so like Macomb County to me.
Here we are.
Not a whole lot of people can understand.
Here we
reference.
are. Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. Oh yeah, Ain't My Bitch.
Yeah.
So you had Until It Sleeps, King Nothing Was Fine, Here Are the Days, pretty good. Bleeding Me. Speaking of great, like decent 8-minute long Metallica songs, that might be my favorite song on that. And Outlaw Torn.
Outlaw Torn's, yeah.
That's like almost 10 minutes long. So you take those songs and maybe one other that I'm just kind of missing off that record. And then what could we put from Reload? This is going to be tough. You're going to put... Not Fuel. No, I guess
is Reload Fuel. Oh yeah, it starts with Fuel.
Memory Remains is fine.
It's okay.
That's got what's her nuts?
Marianne Faithfull.
Yeah. Unforgiven 2. I don't remember. I remember more Unforgiven 3. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
All right, this is a tougher record for me.
It's got a lot of shit on it.
I don't know this record in hindsight. Like I really don't. I don't even know if I own this. I don't think I do. Do you own this?
No.
Okay. I own Load.
I don't own Load.
Yeah. I mean, Load's something I picked up for like $1 on like used CD.
I will say that Reload is better than Saint Anger.
Yeah, but again, I've never spent any time with Saint Anger.
I listened to the whole thing.
Did you really?
Over COVID?
Did you?
Lockdown.
Were you just feeling like cynical about?
No, I was thinking like I'm going to give this another to see if there's anything.
Yeah.
There's not a single song where I ever want to hear it again.
What about Invisible Kid, though?
It's so bad. Like, the lyrics make it even dumber.
Yeah. It's weird. What a weird state of mind.
I can talk about this band forever. It's weird.
It's too bad. It's too bad they didn't let Newsted write some
really
songs.
Great fucking love you had, and then you're 70 years old. And
it really broke your heart. Yeah. It just continues to disappoint you.
God, it was so good, but then, God, we had all these shitty albums together afterwards.
And on occasion, you have moments where you feel close with that person again. Like I did at times on Death Magnetic and at times on Hardwired. Not the whole time.
Well, and like Some Kind of Monster, I feel like I know, like, I intimately know these people in a way that, you know, that I care about them.
Well, they were all over Headbangers Ball when we were kids.
Yeah.
And that's when like Live Shit and Binge and Purge came out.
It's the first band I think that I loved, but also they started putting out so many like videos.
Yeah.
That like you got to see like behind the scenes shit and studio. That's the first real studio experience I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, yeah, Live Shit, Binge and Purge. Before Year and a Half of Life was like kind of that was kind of a breakthrough thing.
That was, yeah. Yeah, they definitely like were one of the first metal bands to sort of go into that. I don't know.
And like they were the biggest band out of the music that I really liked.
Sure.
That like my mom knew who they were.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you like that Dismember band. They're pretty good, but
what about Metallica? They seem like fine.
Seem like
fine
nice
people.
guys. They don't want to override their overtures or anything.
Override their overtures. That would be incredible if your mom ever had that conversation with you.
Well, that was the conversation. Well, I showed her my Dismember albums, and I explained. She's like, "Okay, never said why you."
Was
listen
she
to this
fascinated
again.
by what the Pieces cover or the Indecent and Obscene?
I showed her. I had Pieces and Indecent and Obscene. Those were the two that I showed her, and I was just like, "It's just like horror. It's not. You don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to kill anybody.
Special effects.
I just like this stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, these guys aren't dead. They're singing on the record.
Yeah. They don't have 5 heads tied together with ponytails. It's cool. But Flotsam Jetsam.
Yeah. But so we're going to kind of wrap up Doomsday here and kind of get into No Place for Disgrace. And I don't know No Place for Disgrace in the way that I know Doomsday. I spent a lot more time with that record. But I will say this, when we were, putting things out there on Facebook and stuff, the people that kind of turned me on were Eula Gerhardt and maybe Jeff Wagner. There were a couple other trusted people that commented, somebody commented, Doomsday for Deceiver would be their vote. And then underneath it, Eula was like, actually, I like No Place for Disgrace better. And then like Wagner said, I think the same thing. And I was like, wait, there's a second Flotsam and Jetsam that's worth like it. I was like learning and evolving and stuff because I just assumed that this was the anomaly. This was the Newstead record.
Metal Maniac Scribes.
I trust those guys. Yeah, and Eula's got good taste, and so Wagner I agree with on a lot.
I think they're
of
about
things.
the same age too.
Yeah, and so I just
this
figured,
would have been more on their radar than
and
us.
so and he likes really interesting progressive thrash,
and
so I said, well, I'll check this record out. And so we're going to wrap up with a tune called She Took an Axe, the last song we're going to play from Doomsday, which is the Lizzie Borden tune. Very King Diamond, very Nawabum, very speed metal. The opening riff is the 22 Casey Avenue.
Yeah.
Maiden.
If you're feeling down, depressed, and lonely.
But the album did big enough, even with Newstead leaving, that they got signed by Elektra Records. And they add Troy Gregory on bass to replace Newstead.
What a fucking... How stressful is that, man?
It's tough. I mean, it was tough both ways, right? It's tough for Newstead to be replacing Cliff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like both guys are kind of...
But, like your main songwriter leaves and you get a major sign, like, wow.
Yeah, it is
step
strange.
up or fucking step off, man.
Oh, shit. Yep. And so, they did a cover on this record of Elton John. Saturday Night's All Right for a Fight, which I think was kind of a minor kind of
what
weird
record was
hit
that
for him.
on? Do you remember?
The Elton John?
Yeah. It was off those
one of the
couple?
early ones. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road or something like that,
Jerry Cantrell was a big fan of him as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's why I thought that.
Oh, there you go.
audiobook, yeah.
I have a couple of those first few Eltons that I got for rock and roll history, and they're good.
Yeah. I always liked him as a kid.
Yeah, I just, after the 70s, no.
Candle in, not enough for you?
No. It's like Stevie Wonder in, the 80s. It just doesn't work anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's a place for him, but
yeah.
it doesn't work. Yeah. It's not for
You
me.
weren't a fan of Ebony and Ivory?
I was a bigger fan of...
Joe Piscopo's Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
With Eddie Murphy?
I was...
I'm as blind as a bat and I can see.
the Ebony Ivory I liked was Phil Collins and the dude from like Ohio Players or Earth, Wind and Fire.
I don't know his name.
Now I gotta look it up. Yeah, our Patreons want to know. You'll know this song.
The next verse of that other one I can't say because
why? It's just our patrons. They don't care.
No, because it's a word you don't say anymore.
Oh, we'll just say the N word. It
wasn't the N word.
Oh,
it was fake Sinatra and Stevie Wonder saying.
Oh, the R word? No,
you can say retard.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a coat that's fire retardant. It's fine.
Philip Bailey.
I've never heard his name before.
Oh, yeah, he was the singer, I think, for like Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, ready for it? They're going to hear it too. I just want you to know. This is Phil and Phil. This is my favorite Ivory and
Ebony and Ivory.
Ebony and Ivory.
Is Phil doing the drums too?
Yeah. You got to know Easy Lover.
Did they turn into a medley?
Yeah. She's an easy lover.
No, but this is the same song.
Huh?
It's just a black and a white guy singing together.
That's what I mean.
I thought it was a cover of the song.
No, I was just trying to be clever and say that's my fit. This guy and Phil Collins singing together is my kind of.
He needs to grow a beard, man.
Well, I think he's old. I think he's aging gracefully.
He's got a bad face.
Yeah. So I'm just happy that we got Easy Lover played on a Patreon show.
Well, didn't McCartney do that too?
McCartney did some terrible combination.
He's done a lot of terrible stuff in his life.
Yeah. God dang.
Except for View to a Kill, man. What a cool song.
No, that's Duran Duran. You're thinking Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die.
Yeah. That's a great Duran Duran song. Now, that's a whole other Patreon episode of me ranking James Bond theme songs. I would love to do that. So if you guys want us to do that, let us know because we're on your dime. So just tell us.
I like that Chris Cornell song.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good.
That was like one of the few modern ones I actually liked.
The Adele song for Skyfall, I think is pretty fucking killer.
I don't really remember that enough to remember it.
It's good. I almost there's another song that kind of sounds like Portishead. Oh, it might be. It's Garbage. The World Is Not Enough. It kind of has like a Portishead kind of vibe to it. Of the modern songs.
What was the Casino Royale? Was that the Chris Cornell one?
Yeah.
Okay. That just made
sense my name.
Because it was such a that was like a revelation when we saw that.
The one I hated was the last one. Oh, I don't like that guy at all. Sam Schmuck.
Oh, the Boy George wannabe guy?
Is he?
He has that like falsetto voice. Sam Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like him at all. Fuck.
Yeah. That was bad.
I don't like him. What was the last Bond movie?
Spectre.
I don't think I saw that.
It's good. It had good moments.
Do you think the new one's ever going to come out?
Well,
they got rewritten social justice warrior style.
Oh.
So, what a movie to try to do that with, huh? You've seen how well it's done with all the other Hollywood movies that nobody cares about
James
now?
Bond, like, I get he's got, they address some of that a little bit with, like, the Pierce Brosnan character, that he's kind of like a relic of the Cold War, but that's kind of part of, like, that's part of the story. They
got Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I enjoy a lot for like Fleabag.
Love Fleabag.
She was hired to punch up the script, and then I don't know what happened to it. But I'm pretty sure they're probably going to re-edit it again because none of that stuff that's super politically charged is doing well.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that shit. It's fine to be in other places, but I don't think in mass market media it really has a whole lot of... If that's beating you over the head...
It's got to be done like the way like they did it in 70s cinema or whatever, like where it's subversive, but it's like built in. You got to think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like even the way like Spike Lee did it in Black Klansman, I didn't mind because the movie was about what it was about. And then at the end, there was a montage that connected.
That one made total sense.
Birth of a Nation through Charlottesville. And you're talking about perception of like where the roots of this,
Yeah.
where the roots of the KKK come from.
Yeah.
You know, like, perfect. That's a perfect forum to have that conversation.
That works perfect. But when you say,
You know? Like, Get Out to me was a perfect movie about a bigger issue.
yes,
That was entertaining for what it was, packaged inside deeper things.
but what I don't enjoy is like Captain Marvel, where if you criticize the movie, you don't like women. Those are the kind of problematic things that happen with a clunky story, or
Sure.
like the MLK biopic
Yeah, I didn't see that.
that was not very good. And if anybody criticized it, you're a racist. It was that fucking, what the hell's her name? She did that 13 documentary.
Oh, Ava DuVernay. Yeah.
She's really good on some stuff, and then I want to just like
great.
throw her down the stairs
Yeah.
because she's just so much.
She's a intellectual liberal
I would put that in quotation marks, but
in her mind, but like
Yes.
she's part of like
Yeah.
that. She's a little disconnected, I think, sometimes. Maybe,
yeah,
you
I
know.
would completely agree.
But what was I going to say? So Captain Marvel's like an interesting one because I have a lot of interesting conversations with people, and I think the concept of Captain Marvel, maybe not so much the execution, to me is a lot more interesting.
The comic was more interesting. The revamped comic was more interesting.
I never read it, but I heard good things
than
about it.
This, yeah.
What I thought was really cool is the sort of like the idea of the sort of inverse origin story that like she starts the movie as the most powerful character in the world, but she's being like, that power is being manipulated and controlled by like males that are scared of her power, like Jude Law's character. Like,
yeah.
to me, that's a really cool inverse where it's the opposite of a normal character who's discovering their powers.
Sure.
She has all the power, but like she's not allowed to access it because
But she
of her
doesn't struggle
gender
either.
and things like that. So
She doesn't struggle at all. Just like Rey doesn't struggle for anything in Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
her-
she
makes
has to
them, like-
struggle. She has to struggle, I think, against like the oppressive forces that are like kind of controlling her and manipulating her, and she's got to like break free of that in order to like rediscover the power she's always had.
But barely.
Yeah, and that's like a whole different debate. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like I said, I think the idea of that as a story is cool because it supplants like the normal origin story, which is weak character becomes strong and discovers they're a hero. She's literally the strongest person in the movie at the very beginning, but she doesn't know it and you don't know it because she's not allowed to know it. And to me, there's like a lot of like metaphor there about like in coaching and teaching like females, it's really interesting because they do lack self-confidence because they haven't been allowed to be self-confident.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that like that woven into Captain Marvel is interesting to me from an intellectual standpoint. I don't really like the movie that much.
It has the thing. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it has
I just
narrative potential, but
Yeah.
it seems squandered.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that there was like a really good idea there. I don't know how much it was micromanaged because it was a female director, so I think she was trying to push through some of that. But I think the Marvel executives like micromanaged.
You've
things
seen how
and
much
stuff.
like the Disney Star Wars stuff has been micromanaged. Every single movie has been recut
Oh yeah,
hugely.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff all comes down to just, the company dictates like, okay, what can we do?
And also the mass marketing now too.
Yeah.
That they're not made for American audiences anymore. That's part of it, but they're made for international audience.
But does an international audience even care about that?
They make a lot of money in China and India and those places.
I can't wait till making a lot of money and like doing good stuff. Hopefully
Yeah.
this whole thing, I hope this is like the
art
70s.
and commerce is like
And
a weird thing.
These are like, hopefully these are kind of like the big like sword and sandal Bible epics
Yeah, it's like
that just
Cleopatra.
fucking destroy the whole system and we
Yeah.
can start over again.
You know?
It's been long enough, man.
And that's what we talk about like in my film classes, how like Easy Rider was so profound in that it wasn't that it was just a really cheap indie movie, it's that people flocked to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what we unfortunately have to do. And my fear is that even if like this generation's Easy Rider was released, would it even be released to theaters? Or would it just be released through Netflix?
Well, I think theaters are a bygone thing. I don't think kids give a shit about theaters.
Which makes me sad because I do like theaters. Like I like the cinematic experience. Some of the trappings are kind of bullshit and the prices and some of it, but there is something still like magical.
I
to
agree.
me.
But if you never grew up with it, is there? Just like people love music, but they never put a record on a player, put a CD on a player or a cassette, or like physical media is a way to enjoy it. But I think that's becoming just like theaters are becoming like less and less.
Yeah. And maybe what theaters can turn into is like places where you can go and watch Citizen Kane and Vertigo, and that's fine too.
That's what I would enjoy.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
Maybe the big tent movie is done, or maybe there are a few theaters that still like will throw to go see like a Star Wars type movie on that big screen with sound and all the stuff that like that adds to those movies, because when you watch them on a small screen, you kind of like, okay. But I care a little less about these movies.
But look at, like, you're not a rich man.
Yeah.
You have a home theater in your basement that rivals probably a $30,000 theater in the 80s.
That's true.
And, like, that's not an unheard of thing anymore for people to have. There's people next door just banging the fuck out of each other.
Yep. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. I made that porn reference in that one episode about Dark Angel being like plotless porn, and now we're being haunted.
Do you remember the comic Dark Angel, or the TV show with Jessica Alba?
I do, only because
it was based on a crappy comic.
My old roommate, our old Eclipse writer, was obsessed with Jessica Alba. Brian, she was cute, but she never really like. She had no personality, really. She was kind of like
she's kind of vapid.
Yeah. Speaking of World Is Not Enough, she was very much like Denise Richards, kind of in that kind of.
She only came once a year.
Yes, Christmas. Dr. Christmas Jones. No, the actress, just like her, kind of like, I don't know. There wasn't much going on with Denise Richards sometimes.
No, she seemed like a sex bot.
Yeah. Jessica Alba, though, the movie Brian made us watch all the time when he was living with me, was Idle Hands. Because there's a scene where she's like crawling and she's wearing like, she's very skimpy or whatever. Anyways, I don't want to go on like a weird like Jessica Alba. But yeah. So you had Dark Angel, and then what was the show that had Faith from Buffy on it? That was similar to Dark Angel. I feel like there was like another kind of spin-off, or maybe I'm just thinking of Faith from Buffy being like Jessica Alba on Dark Angel in terms of like kind of an edgy.
Well, she went to Dollhouse, but she's in something else.
Yeah, True Calling. Do you remember that show? I forgot about it. Wasn't that kind of like Dark Angel? I never really saw much of it. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Me neither. Must have been really great.
I'm sure it was fantastic. I'll just go watch Next Generation.
Yeah, there you go. So speaking of crazy women, Lizzie Borden, she took an axe. Yeah.
Speaking of Metal Blade Records,
you got it. And so anyways, so now we go from She Took an Axe in the last tune from Doomsday for the Deceiver into a pair of tunes to kind of introduce No Place for Disgrace before we kind of wrap everything up. And, the record, remember I promised you this was going to happen in, I think, our last episode we recorded. This record, if you listen to the whole thing, and you probably didn't yet, you probably just listened to a couple choice tracks.
I listened to all of Doomsday, but...
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this one reminds me the most of Riot Thundersteel. Like describe Riot Thundersteel to somebody. Because that's what this record is. It's like, what is this? It's not quite thrash. It's not quite traditional metal.
Thundersteel is speed metal, to me. It's in the German sense of speed metal.
But it's American, too. So it has American sensibilities. And to me, that's what I'm hearing all over.
What year's Thundersteel? Is that 87?
Same year. 88.
88, okay. Yeah. Nothing in the U.S. sounded like Thundersteel in 88.
Yeah.
Nothing that I have ever heard.
The only thing that, that also, so I think you would like the second one a lot.
Yeah.
In the same way that Wagner and Eula say it's even better than Doomsday, especially if you're a Riot Thundersteel guy. There's another... It kind of reminds me of Sabbath, too. It's got some weird Sabbatisms. There's a band I recently picked up. I think I showed you the cover because the cover's so fucking terrible. But it's like a really cool thrash metal-ish record called Scanner Hypertrace. And it looks like a fucking shitty robot that a kid would draw, like a cyborg.
Like they went to see Terminator and they went to draw it with.
Yeah, have you seen that cover?
Yes.
It's surprisingly a great record. Really good.
I'm not surprised.
And then there's another band, Realm. Do you remember those guys, Realm?
No.
I think they were on Roadrunner. I've got both their records, and they're good. But the vocalist from Realm reminds me of Eric from this band. Kind of has that same kind of range. His name is Mark Antoni, and Realm was a band we got a lot of votes to do as well. They're
never heard.
Probably
of them.
won't, but they're Metal Mind Records. So when they did like those Roadrunner releases, that's why they're like those Metal Mind.
Was that like only like a Dutch released band or something? Because Roadrunner was originally a Dutch label.
Yep.
And then kind of became known more of like the U.S. branch.
Yeah.
Right?
I think.
With like Monty Connor and all that dude.
I'm looking up Realm.
And then because
Realm
Roadrunner,
they're
Racer.
from Milwaukee. You probably saw them at Milwaukee Metal Fest.
I watched right by because the name.
Yep. Yeah, Realm.
Unless it's set of Chaos.
Endless War. Endless War. 93%. 1988. And then their second record, Suicidity. Fuck yes.
Good one.
Yeah, it's a real good one.
Very high school.
Yep, Suicidity, guys. That's deep. What is that record about? No, it's actually a cool record. It's actually not bad. But Endless War, you probably have seen the cover of before. It had like the Trojan horse kind of looking thing.
Oh,
you ever see that before?
No.
It's a good record. It was kind of hard to find, but yeah. Roadrunner, RC Records. So, anyways, those are kind of the bands that sort of come to mind with like how weird this kind of second Flotsam is. And so we're going to get into a pair of tunes to kind of kick things off before we wrap things up. And we've got the title track, No Place for Disgrace. And I kind of wrote that this has all the kitchen sink, thrash, Maiden, Queensryche trappings, but with a much fuller, better produced sound. So you can tell they've got Elektra Records money being pumped into them now a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the second tune, Any Terror.
Northeast Terror?
I guess Northeast Terror, New England Terror. I don't know, Northeast. Really cool Master of Puppets like palm muting and shit here. And a lot of awesome guitar solo trade-offs back. You know, a lot of Eastern scales. You get a cool bass break. It's I don't know. It's good. It's Flotsam and Jetsam.
Trash.
Yeah, it's Flotsam and Jetsam. That's where you're going to get
You
here.
get the
all
Flotsam
right?
Jetsam.
Yeah, you fucking are going to get it here. Yeah, exactly. So enjoy.
Some from the sea, and then you get back to the sea.
Yes. You get New England Terror from Arizona.
Aye.
Yeah. Aye. Or New
Brunswick?
Is Nebraska? What's the is it NE Nebraska on the postal code?
Yeah.
Could be Nebraska Terror.
Usually they don't have periods.
I know. I'm trying to think outside the box. So we got She Took an Axe, No Place for Disgrace from the No Place for Disgrace, and then NE Terror. Enjoy.
New Equatorial Terror.
Any terror, no place for disgrace, and she took an axe. Sorry, a little slap happy. Been in the recording realm for a while.
Been in the booth for a while.
Yeah, I've been in the booth for a while, but that's all right. It's a Patreon show, and you guys kind of like some of the looseness a little bit.
This is like an after-hours lecture or something.
There
where
you go.
You talk about what you're supposed to talk about, and then you wildly go off track for a little while, then come back.
That's who we are. That's who we are.
Or it's like going to a party with one of your college professors for the first time, and you start talking about a little bit of
what you're doing in class,
and
then all of a sudden
did you ever know that this guy butt fucked a horse in this movie?
You're in some side notes, man.
Yeah.
In fact, we got in the conversation in my class on Jaws, and I ended up telling him that story about getting left in the fucking ocean, and like it just
then
kinda,
they made a movie about it
called Open Water.
Open Water,
yeah, exactly. I lived that.
You should sue them for some money, man.
I should. The local Fijian operation.
No, that movie.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I wish I would have tried to write my movie. Didn't have like no one dies. And
you made it back.
I did.
Everybody was surprised you made it.
Yeah, we were just talking about sad musicals. Like sad musicals, like no one likes.
You're singing the whole way back.
Yeah,
and then you make it. And you make it like, okay.
Who wants to see that movie?
You need to.
I need to die.
No, you need
or I
to,
need to lose a leg.
You need to run into some sirens.
Yeah, there's got to be some.
You need to bring it back to some classical literature.
Naked mermaids for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, if we're gonna sell to the international market,
I think so.
That's what we want. But they talk about in Popoff's book a little bit about why they decided to throw an Elton John song on there. They said it was actually suggested by an A&R person at Elektra. Go figure.
Big surprise.
We all kind of liked Elton John at the time. We grew up listening to him, so we tried it, and we tried to like turn it into heavy guitar. And yep, there you go. They said we have pages and pages of cover songs that we'd like to try. We have a lot. Whatever that means. That almost sounds like a threat. We have a lot of cover songs. So, and for Mark and I, this is where we get off the Flotsam and Jetsam train right here. So.
Yeah, we get thrown back into the water at this point.
Yeah, we're done with them. Yeah, they've become an albatross if we're going to keep using out at sea
nautical metaphors.
Yeah, we need a nautical episode if we're talking this much about Jaws and shit like that.
We could have Keelhaul in an episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh fuck yes, yeah, we did a Keelhaul episode. Go listen to our old Keelhaul episode back in episode 24.
Yeah, I found my
23
for what the fuck was the album called? Something to Change Without Notice. I had a picture disc of it that I forgot I had because it had no spine. And I was going through my shit. I was like, oh, fuck. And I listened to it like 5 times in a row. I was like, God damn, that's a good record.
That was a nice record.
All their records are great.
What a underrated
Thank you,
band.
Cleveland.
Yeah, thanks, Ohio. So,
thanks, Will Scharf.
Yep. Oh, those guys. They played at a record store. If some of you don't know that, but we kind of became friends with them, and they needed a gig because something got canceled, and we offered them
$50
to come. Well, we offered them whatever we could get.
We got them way more than that.
We did, yeah. All those other bands played for free.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was cool. I felt bad for those other local bands.
Fuck them.
Whatever.
Local bands, man.
Yeah.
And like his snare drum got destroyed, and he had to borrow from what was that sing-songy weirdo band? Kids.
You subscribed a lot of Gannon?
No, they weren't there.
Yeah, I thought Gannon played that night, weren't they?
No.
You sure?
Positive.
Oh, okay. I thought Kenny told me that Gannon played.
No, he didn't fucking play that band.
He's invented mythology.
Full of shit. It was Mount Pleasant shit.
Yeah.
It was that redheaded stepchild kid that eventually would go on to have like horns and stuff in the band. Do you remember that band?
Oof.
It was like my art teacher's son or something.
Holy shit, you lost me here. I don't remember. I gotta look at that flyer.
Something Joint. My art teacher, Mrs. Joint, was her. She had the redheaded kid.
Anathalo.
Yeah.
Anathalo.
They played that night.
When you said art teacher, I was thinking of a college professor. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got Matt Joint from Anathalo. I got him into Enslaved. He fucking loved black metal.
But does he still?
I think so. I don't know. It's hard to say. I know a lot of those guys because they were all good friends of ours. They were like the younger brothers of all of our friends.
Yeah.
And Matt's oldest sister dated Tweed for like 3 years. Liz Joint.
Okay.
now she's married to someone else. And I'm sure our patrons are fucking fascinated by this
yeah.
story.
Now, if you guys want to go back to Mount Pleasant High School and find some
Now,
yearbooks on
to be
eBay,
fair, Anathallo had like a big following. Like they
got on a bigger indie label.
like legit, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I just did not give a shit about what they did.
they're interesting. I didn't like choose to listen to them, but I was like proud that they were doing like not just boring, stupid shit.
They were doing like Silver Mount Zion type stuff, but not as interesting.
Not as interesting.
Yeah.
But like it was quirky enough that like they were carving out a niche for themselves.
Yeah, and for a very small town that we grew up in, it's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we hope that you kind of enjoyed our little exploration into this. I don't know if you learned anything about Flotsam and Jetsam, but Mark and I have limited knowledge on these guys for the reasons we sort of described. And so we're being kind of honest and frank about the fact that like this is a band we just are kind of getting into. We kind of, people wanted to hear them on the thrash thing. And so we thought, well, we'll have fun with it with you guys. The song we're going to end with, though, is I Live, You Die, which is a cool song about kind of gladiator battles. And it kind of has that like sort of feel. It's got kind of dual melodies. It's kind of got like a battle feel in a cool way. It kind of sounds like, do you know that band Artillery? German.
I've never heard them, but I've heard of them.
They're cool.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of that, like musically a little bit. Okay. So it's got like a definite German feel. It's got like that more upbeat thing that like Blind Guardian and Halloween do really well.
Oktoberfest vibe.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, some
getting drunk and singing together.
There it is. Sing song. So, but again, we appreciate you guys as patrons. We hope you had fun with this. We promise we'll be a little bit more serious on the next one. But honestly, you learned a lot about Jaws.
Nobody's ever complained.
You learned a lot about Jaws.
I have my favorite thing is to do these Patreon episodes because they're completely, you have a skeleton of a thing, but then we can go anywhere. And
I can talk about film and Buffy and all kinds of fun shit.
Yeah, I can talk about all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Just ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to my mind.
What were the lyrics you were quoting earlier? Oh, we just played a Phil Collins song. We played Easy Lover. Yeah. That got played on a Patreon show. I just want you to know, right? Right, Davos? Davos the dog is here with us. He's excited. So, but I
reenacted a Saturday Night Live skit for you that nobody ever wants to see.
So 2 years ago, would you have thought that you'd be sitting here saying like you're mind blown by Flotsam and Jetsam? Because that would have been like kind of a surprising idea to me.
Year to year, I'm just glad that I'm still here.
You're just positive.
If I can, every year that I can come up with, I mean, it's been my entire life now. Well, entire adult life and teenage life. Every year I find bands that completely blow me away every year, multiple times, which
that you maybe dismissed previously.
Yeah. Or I love being proved wrong when stuff is great.
Sure.
So
it's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, I kind of expected to not like it that much. And so when it hits me in the way that it hit me, especially with like the Doomsday record, I just, I don't know. Now that I just got No Place for Disgrace in the mail like 2 days ago. So I haven't had a lot of time to digest it, but I did, like I said, curate a couple songs from it that I thought were highlights, at least from what I could gather. And so I think that's a record that I think the more I spent some time with it, according to Eula and Jeff, that it's a solid record.
Now we know where you live.
Yeah. Fuck you guys.
We're going to mail it to you.
Exactly. But thank you, patrons. We appreciate it. You know where to find us already. You're a priority on our social media. You already are patrons, so we don't need to go through all that. But if you have any thoughts or feedback on the show for us, shoot us an email, obviously, or get a hold of us through Patreon. We do appreciate when you guys give us feedback on what you like about the shows and all that other good stuff. So for No Place for Disgrace, Flotsam and Jetsam, and I Live, You Die, I am Jason.
And I Live, You Die, I would love to give them a comma in there to make it more accurate.
It's really like a A-.
Yeah.
Or B+.
Maybe even a colon you could put in there. I think you might be able to work that in, possibly. But I'm Mark.
What about I Live, You Die, ...
I live, comma, you die, ... That sounds more menacing. I like that.
Now I don't know.
I think you need more. It needs more grammar in there.
Or they could take that quote about we have a whole list of covers ... Like to me, it's menacing. Like the next album we could release is just us doing cover songs.
All Elton John covers, Seals and Cross.
Yeah, that could be really a disaster. So enjoy, patrons. We'll catch you on the flip side, as they say on the streets.
Back 35 years ago.